Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel 21 Hunting and Fishing. And today's video is more meant to be informative, not necessarily entertaining, because there's something going down in California that we need to talk about. And I'll get to that in a second. But if you're enjoying this channel, content, whatever, let me know, leave a comment. Get some views on some videos, but I don't really know if people like it or not, but I'm having fun making them and learning stuff along the way, so it helps fill the time. Anyways, what's the topic for today? Today we're going to talk about the California Department of Fish and Wildlife notice of proposed changes in regulation regarding the barred sand bass. So I've heard a lot about this now on some social media. Some social media has been talking about it for a really long time. Some is starting to talk about it a lot more in here in California. And what I haven't really done yet, well, I've done it, but I don't know if people have done it, is read through line by line the notice of proposed changes. So I'm going to click through some slides. There's going to be a text on the screen, but this would be a good episode to listen to in the car. If you're driving and you have time, go ahead and just listen. I'm just trying to make sure audio is good. I think audio is good, so let's get started. All right, so the first things first is finding the notice of proposed changes and regulations. It can be, personally, it seems a bit buried as some of these things are. So when you Google CDFW, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, it takes you to, this is the first thing that shows up. You click on public notices and meetings, and then it brings you to this page. And if you're driving and listening, you can go back and look at this later, but I'm just trying to show that there's several things you got to click on to even find it. Now, there could be other ways to find it. This is the way I've been referring to it. And sometimes with these things, even if it's a little bit convoluted route to get there, once I know that path in my head, I just stick with it. But this is the just straight up Googling it. This is the first time, the first route of clicking, whatever you want to call, that I've used to get there. All right, so there's notices, there's meetings, and you see it says see also, kind of in the lower left, not bold, like there's some other things I clicked on first because like, oh, these must be it, but it's not. It's this Fish and Game Commission proposed regulations. Then it brings you to this page and it has all the years listed and proposed or regulation changes, I guess. I didn't look at any of the other years, but for 2025, you click there. That brings you to new and proposed regulations in 2025. I haven't clicked on this commissioner's anticipated rulemaking timetable. That would be interesting. I don't know. But you see there's hunting, trapping, there's ocean fishing, another one, hunting, trapping, inland sport, fishing, ocean fishing, and other. Chronic wasting disease could be a topic in of itself. Maybe I will cover that since this channel also talks about hunting. Recreational take of barred sand bass. So you click here, there you go. And that takes you to another page where it has these bulletized, it looks like it's basically like a timeline if you look. So January, just in December, January, April, blah, blah, blah. So this must be the path that these type of regulations have to take. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a guy who likes to hunt and fish. And I've also never dove this deep into one of these type of things. In this case, proposed change of recreational, I'm sorry, the recreational take of barred sand bass. I've never jumped into something like this that deep. Hunted and fished in other states. I can tell you California is constantly tweaking and changing regulations. That they change fishery regulations year to year. You really need to pay attention. What might have been legal last year might not be legal this year or next year. Um, so yeah, that's that. So click there. All right, so it brings you to a PDF, and I've taken this PDF screenshot by screenshot, and this is the meat and potatoes of what you probably came here to listen about, um, or maybe not. Again, this is meant to be informative, something you can listen to in the car, and not necessarily, you know, entertaining. This is proposed legislation, so not going to be super fun. Okay, Title 14, Fish and Game Commission Notice of Proposed Changes and Regulations. Notice is hereby given that the Fish and Game Commission, pursuant to the authority vested by sections, blah, 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 a bunch of sections of the Fish and Game Code to implement, interpret, or make specific sections, all a bunch of numbers, and another number of said code, proposes to amend section 28.30, Title 14, California Code of Regulations related to the recreational take of barred sand bass. Okay, all this is saying is that something is going to change. Doesn't say what yet. We know that. Pretty basic. Okay, informative digest / policy statement overview. Unless otherwise specified, all section references in this document are to Title 14 of the California Code of Regulations. I guess that has to do with Title 14 must be Fish and Game Commission or authorities. The barred sand bass fishery is a historic recreational fishery in Southern California that is open year-round and managed collectively with kelp bass and spotted sand bass. So kelp bass, but probably better known as calico bass, and spotted sand bass. Uh, that's spotted bay bass as well, same AKA. Current regulations include a 5-fish bag limit in any combination of the 3 species with a minimum size limit of 14 inches, which was basically established in 2013 due to concerns about the status of kelp bass and barred sand bass stocks. So back in 2013, you used to be able to keep a calico or any of these fish I just mentioned that were 12 inches, but now they made it 14 inches. Now there's science behind that, but the intent is behind that was to make it give them more opportunity to spawn. So they already did something to help the fish spawn, and I don't want to provide too much commentary other than they probably didn't even need to do that. While no formal stock assessment exists for barred sand bass, that's interesting. So how are we changing a law with no formal stock assessment? I don't foresee other areas of law changing, things you do to change without some sort of formal study. So this is like in the first, this is screenshot like the first third of the first page, and this is like one of the first things you read. I'm surprised they didn't bury that deeper. Okay, so while no formal stock assessment exists for barred sand bass, abundance estimates based on fishery independent data suggest a severely depressed population in Southern California. So what independent data? There's data somewhere. It's supposed to be independent. You think they would clarify a little bit more? That's obviously going to raise a lot of questions. Severely depressed population of Southern California. They are probably going off of, sport boat fish counts, and there's also discussion about we're in an anchovy cycle. We're in a sardine cycle for the past few years, not an anchovy cycle, and you don't really catch barred sand bass on sardines because they're much bigger than anchovies. So somewhere they are suggesting a severely depressed population, which is weird because I've caught barred sand bass just last month. I was on a boat that caught some. But anyways, they're saying somewhere along the line that the population is depressed. The presumed decline is likely due to a combination of environmental conditions, poor recruitment, and fishing pressure on easily targeted spawning aggregations. Well, there already is a size limit of 14 inches, and you already did that because they have a chance to spawn X number of times before they get to 14 inches. So it shouldn't matter if they're spawning and they're big enough to spawn but not big enough to keep. You throw those back anyway. So I don't understand that one. Let's move on. And what I try to do on some of these is just include like the bottom of the last screenshot, so you know I'm not cutting anything out. But I also don't have tons of time to make these videos, so that may be not always the case. Anyways, in consultation with fishing industry representatives, fishery researchers, and stakeholders, and with guidance from the Commission's Marine Resources Committee, the department proposes changes to the title and the section number in the proposed language in 28.30 intended to limit take in possession of barred sand bass includes a range of options for the sub-bag and possession limit for barred sand bass within the overall 5 fish combined limit for kelp bass, barred sand bass, and spotted sand bass to be decided through the Commission public noticing process. Okay, so they're basically just saying that they talked to some industry representatives, who are they, fishery researchers, who are they, and other stakeholders, and guidance with the Marine Resources Committee. They're basically getting a little bit more details, but they're saying that they want to change the 5 fish combined limit for the calico, the barred, and the spotty. Because right now you can catch up to 5 of any combination of those 3. So they bucketed it in for the purpose of your bag. They're essentially like the same species if you think of it that way. So you can have 5 calicos. That means you can't take home any barred sand bass or spotties. I think you get it. It's pretty simple math. The options are a range of possession limits of 0 to 5 barred sand bass varying seasonally, with a sunset provision ending June 1st, 2028. The sunset provision allows for conservation of barred sand bass while the department works with stakeholders on further reviewing data and developing methods to evaluate potential future regulations that will help increase and sustain the barred sand bass population and support public fishing opportunities. Okay, so all that I interpret to mean that they want to, whatever they propose, they want to do it for essentially 3 years, so they can let those changes take effect and then research did something change? Did this help out? The proposed regulation amendment is intended to reduce the overall number of barred sand bass taken by the fishery, specifically during the spawning months when barred sand bass are most vulnerable to fishing. So we already talked about that. We can't take the ones that are in the prime of their spawning, so they're not really vulnerable. Okay, there starts to get the meat and potatoes. The proposed changes are as follows. Subsection 28.3b, as in Bravo, is proposed to be amended to specify bag limit changes to 1 species, barred sand bass, within the saltwater bases complex. This amendment is necessary to further protect barred sand bass spawning aggregations. That's a statement of opinion, right? Because some people would disagree with that, but they kind of make it sound like by doing this, we're going to protect spawning aggregations. You already protect them by limiting the length. Add subsection C as in Charlie 1, which would create a limit within the spawning season on barred sand bass June 1 through August 31st, and C2, Charlie 2, which would create a limit during all other months. The square brackets indicate a range within which a final number will I think be determined by the commission. I think they missed a word there. So they want to limit these during like the prime time of summer fishing. Who's fishing in the summer? Well, basically everybody, but who probably fishes a little bit more during the summer? Kids. And the barred sand bass is a fish where you can get kids hooked on, and then they, get into the industry. So a lot of industry representatives and that I'm listening to were not consulted with this. I mean, there's a lot of people that are worried, rightfully so, because they're so far we're basically just saying we're changing things because we think that it's going to help the population, but we don't have any data. It's kind of odd. The subsections would read as follows. C. Barred sand bass limit, notwithstanding subsection B. 1. From June 1st to August 31st, a maximum of 0 to 5 barred sand bass may be taken or possessed. So they're not going to say you can take a max of 5 barred sand bass. It's probably more likely going to be 0, right? Like so far they're saying we're going to make these changes because you can already take 5. So it would be really weird if they do all this work, set this agenda and do all this stuff and then still allow you to take 5. So that's probably not going to happen. From September 1st to May 31st, a maximum of 1 to 5 barred sand bass may be taken or possessed. So you might be able to have 1 sand bass a year, right? Because so if they go 0 all the way to 0, and then I'm sorry, not necessarily 1 a year, 1 a day. 0 in the summer and 1 September 1st through May 31st. So like fall, winter, spring. Sunset provision subsection C shall remain in effect until June 1st, 2028, and as of that date is repealed. So they're saying that they will put this in effect for 3 years and then they'll repeal it. Well, maybe not, because if they're able to put it in the first place, then what stops them from just keeping it there? Benefit of the regulations, according to this public notification. The Commission anticipates benefits to the state's environment by sustainably managing California's ocean resources. It's very pretty wording, the gaslighting us. The barred sand bass population would benefit from reduced fishing effort during their spawning season when they are most susceptible to fishing, which ultimately supports a more sustainable fishery in the long term. The adoption of scientifically based limits provides for the maintenance of sufficient populations of barred sand bass to ensure their continued existence for the environment and for the businesses that rely on recreational barred sand bassing. So the businesses that rely on recreational barred sand bass fishing don't support this, and no one that has whose business relies on recreational barred sand bass fishing would say that we need this. No one's saying that. Those people don't trust the people that write this type of stuff. So this is just, again, a lot more words saying that we think this is going to help. They use the word scientifically, which is interesting because on the other page, they don't have any data. So some pretty words, but where's the data? Consistency and compatibility with existing regulations. So this is another paragraph if you're listening. Article blah blah, section blah blah of the state constitution specifies that the legislature may delegate to the commission such powers related to the protection and propagation of fish and game as the legislature sees fit. So they're basically saying that we can delegate this to the commission, and you don't necessarily have to put it for a vote. The legislature has delegated authority to the commission to promulgate recreational fishing regulations, and this is the Fish and Game Code. Commission staff has searched the California Code of Regulation and has found no other state regulations that address the recreational take of barred sand bass. So they're just kind of crossing I's and dotting T's on like the legalities, the administrative legalities of why they can do this. The Commission has reviewed its own regulations and finds that the proposed regulations are consistent with other recreational fishing regulations in Title 14 CCR, and therefore finds that the proposed regulations are neither inconsistent nor incompatible with existing state regulation. I think that's kind of self-explanatory. There's no rule that says that this is going to conflict with. So again, just more, I think, dotting I's, crossing T's to prevent confusion if this were to pass. Public participation, another paragraph that's headers in bold. Comments submitted by mail or email. It is requested but not required that written comments be submitted on or before 5 p.m. on Thursday, April 3rd, 2025 at the address given below or by mail to fgc@fgc.ca.gov. Spell phonetically Foxtrot Golf Charlie at Foxtrot Golf Charlie dot Charlie Alpha dot Golf October Victor. Written comments mailed or emailed to the Commission office must be received before 12 noon on Friday, April 10th, 2025. If you would like copies of any modifications to this proposal, please include your name and mailing address. Mailed comments should be addressed to Fish and Game Commission, P.O. Box 944-209, Sacramento, California 94244-2090. Send your comments in. But that seems late because they're having the meeting on February 13th. So I think you have to go back to see that like timeline I was talking about, like what's driving that timeline. Meetings. Okay, so now just more admin type stuff. Notice is given that any person interested may present statements orally or in writing relevant to this action at a hearing to be held in the California Natural Resources Headquarters Building, second floor, 715 P as in Papa Street, Sacramento, California, which will begin at 8:30 a.m. on Wednesday, February 12th, and may continue 8 a.m. on Thursday, February 13th. So I heard that they were going to talk about this particular issue on Thursday, February 13th, because if you look at the agenda of that meeting, there's a whole bunch of stuff on there. This meeting will also include the opportunity to participate via basically a Zoom call. Instructions for participating in the Zoom call hearing will be posted at www.fgc.ca.gov in advance of the meeting, or may be obtained by calling 916-653-4899. Please refer to the Commission meeting agenda, which will be available at least 10 days prior to the meeting for the most current information. Take a look at the agenda. They released it 10 days, kind of short. But yeah, they have an agenda somewhere. Again, like clicking and trying to find some of this information can be a bit of a rabbit hole. And that's why I wanted to make this video, so you could just like kind of listen to it on your commute, so you are up to speed on exactly what this proposal says. Notice is also given that any person interested may present statements orally in writing relevant to this action at a hearing to be held in Sacramento, which will commence at 8:30 a.m. on Wednesday, April 16th, 2025, and may continue at 8:30 a.m. on Thursday, April 17th, 2025. The exact location of this meeting has not yet been determined. So they're going to have this first meeting in February, and then they have this other meeting. I wasn't tracking the second meeting, honestly, until I started. I feel like I've read this, but I didn't see this section. Okay, so there's meetings in February, meeting in April. And you have to go back to the timeline to figure out what happens between February and April and why they need both meetings. The exact location, okay, now I read that. As soon as this information is available, but not less than 10 days before the hearing, a continuation notice will be sent to interested and affected parties providing the exact location. The continuation notice will also be published on the commission's website. This meeting will also, sorry, I gotta check the time. Okay. This meeting will also include the opportunity to participate via Zoom call, essentially. That's what that is. Instructions for participation in the Zoom call hearing will be posted at the same website I've been talking about, fgc.ca.gov, in advance of the meeting, or may be attained by calling said phone number, and it'll be available 10 days before that. Okay, so this is just a whole bunch of ways for you to get involved. That's the takeaway of this slide. Availability of documents. Copies of the notice of proposed action, the initial statement of reasons, and the text of the regulation in underline and strikeout format can be accessed through the Commission's website at fgc.ca.gov. So if you go to that website, I can almost guarantee you it's going to be hard to find what they're actually saying. The regulations, as well as all related documents upon which the proposal is based, parentheses rulemaking file, are on file and available for public review from the agency representative Melissa Miller Henson. Melissa Miller Henson, Executive Director, Fish and Game Commission. The same address, same phone. I think it's the same phone number, but okay, that's her contact information. In which how do you get a hold of her if you want to mail her something. Please direct requests for the above mentioned documents and inquiries concerning their regulatory process to Melissa Miller Henson or David Huag. I don't know how to say that. Sorry. Again, at fgc@fgc.ca.gov. I said October earlier, didn't I? It's Oscar. Foxtrot Golf Charlie at foxtrotgolfcharlie.charliealpha.golf Oscar Victor. I feel better. I corrected myself. Or at the preceding address or phone number, Armin Barilotti, environmental scientist, Department of Fish and Wildlife. It gives his direct email. So you can email him your letter. You can send it directly, because when you put something in the mail, I'm sure some secretary opens it, kind of screens it, and throws it away if they want to. Has been designated to respond to questions on the substance. Okay, so this is the guy you need to contact. He is part of his job to respond to questions on this proposal. Availability of modified text. If the regulations adopted by the Commission differ from but are sufficiently related to the action proposed, they will be available to the public for at least 15 days prior to the date of adoption. Okay, let me just read this again real quick to myself. Okay, so they're just saying if what they end up adopting is different, they'll be available to the public for 15 days. So that's kind of weird. So they're basically saying we could just do something different. If the regulations adopted by the Commission differ from but are sufficiently related to the action proposed, so if they're different from what we've read, but they're related to the barred sand bass protection, so to speak, they'll be available, but they're just going to be different. So don't worry about it. We're going to make it available. What I don't understand how they can do that. Circumstances beyond the control of the Commission, for example, timing of federal regulation adoption, timing of resource data collection, timelines do not allow, etc., or changes made to be responsive to public recommendation and comments during the regulatory process may preclude full compliance with the 15-day comment period, and the Commission will exercise its powers under Section 265 of Fish and Game Code. Regulations adopted pursuant to this section are not subject to the time periods for adoption. Amendment or repeal of regulations prescribed in sections, and there's numbers here. You never remember it if I say it anyway. Available in modified text. So they could adopt something that is different. So they could they could take sand bass away completely for 24/7, 365. But don't worry, because they'll still make it available. So that's kind of interesting. I didn't know they could do that. Okay, more numbers of the government code. Any person interested may obtain a copy of said regulations prior to the date of adoption by contacting the agency representative named here. If the regulatory proposal is adopted, the final statement of reasons may be obtained from the address above when it has been received from the agency program staff. Okay, I guess that's self-explanatory. Impact of regulatory action / results of the economic impact assessment. So just from reading this before, this is like where they say they propose some regulation and then there's some assessment about the economic impact, right? We always hear about government impact on business and things like this. They're saying they kind of already looked into this, so let's dive into this. The potential for significant statewide adverse economic impacts that might result from the proposed regulatory action has been assessed, and the following initial determinations relative to the required statutory categories have been made. A. Significant statewide adverse economic impact directly affecting businesses, including the ability of California businesses to compete with businesses in other states. So they looked into this. They're not saying it's going to. They just say they looked into this. So now we're going to read about what they have determined on that subject. So that's how this reads. The proposed action will not have a significant statewide adverse economic impact directly affecting businesses, including the ability of California businesses to compete with businesses in other states. So two things. One, it could affect businesses. It's just saying that it's not going to have some major impact on statewide, which is that's kind of a pretty big thing. You would have to pass something pretty big to affect the fifth largest economy in the world. The Commission anticipates that the impact of the proposed regulations on the entirety of marine sport fishing activity is not expected to be sufficiently significant. Impact sport fishing expenditures to businesses within the state. Sorry, my phone's going off. I'm just a noob here trying to inform the public. And okay, so yeah, the barred sand bass is that we don't compete with Arizona or Nevada or any other state on that matter, business wise, in such a way that the barred sand bass would impact that. No one is saying that that's the case. Okay, B. Now this is the second thing they looked at. Impact on the creation or elimination of jobs within the state, the creation of new businesses, or the elimination of existing businesses, or the expansion of business in California. And then semicolon, benefits of the regulation to the health and welfare of California residents workers. So now they're going to say we looked into all these things that I just mentioned. The Commission does not anticipate any significant impacts on the creation or elimination of jobs, the creation of new businesses, the elimination of existing business, or the expansion of business in California. So they just kind of say this, right? There's no real. That's easy just to say. Yeah, don't worry, it's not going to impact anything. Sport fish related businesses may have to adjust to changes in the composition of recreational fishing opportunities, but these changes are not expected to be substantial due to the fishery being kept open and from the sufficient suitability of kelp bass as an alternative species. So they're saying just go catch calicos instead. Don't worry about the barred sand bass. They don't mention the impact on a lot of things here, including the bait barges. If you're not aware, California has an amazing ability to, you can just pull up to these bait barges as you're leaving the bay, get some scoops of sardines or anchovies, and those bait companies rely on the ability to continue to provide bait through the winter. These bait barges are open, not all of them, but these bait barges are open 365 days a year. You can get bait on Christmas morning if you wanted to. But, it is seasonal here in California. Like the season does slow down a little bit. And I'm not saying like the fish, well, the fish counts slow down just because you don't have as many boats going out. But people are still fishing all the time, and they really rely on the sport boats to essentially get them through the winter. Selling bait spring, summer, and fall is obviously not an issue, but anyways, the commission anticipates benefits of the regulation to the health and welfare of California residents. The commission anticipates benefits of the regulation to the health and welfare of California residents. So they're saying this is going to help people somehow. Providing sustainable fishing opportunities encourages recreation, which can have a positive impact on the health and welfare. So they're saying we're going to take it away, but don't worry, you're going to be healthier in the long run. The commission anticipates benefits of the regulation to the health and welfare of California residents. That's a pretty bold statement. Again, I think that's an opinion. The commission does not anticipate benefits to worker safety from the proposed regulations. The commission anticipates benefits of the regulation to states' environment, including preserving fishing opportunity, along with the continuation of the reasonable and sustainable management of barred sand bass resources. I was so surprised when I heard they want to come after the barred sand bass, because it's a fun fish to catch. Like, it's like in the middle of summer, if you're going out with your boys to go fishing, like you're going offshore, you're going to be looking for more pelagic, the yellowtail, the dorado when they're here, tuna, obviously, bluefin tuna. I'm just really confused of how this is going to help sustain the barred sand bass. These fish are everywhere. Really odd. And there's already a size limit on them. And you guys put that size limit because you said that they were able to spawn a sufficient amount of times once they got to that 14 inches. So they're just kind of taking a little bit more. C, cost impacts on a representative private person or business. The commission is not aware of any cost impacts that a representative private person or business would necessarily incur in a reasonable compliance with the proposed action. Costs are savings to state agencies or cost savings in federal funding to the state? None. So yeah, this isn't going to save anyone money. Non-discretionary cost, none. Programs mandated on local agencies or school district, none. Cost imposed on any local agency or school district that is required to be reimbursed under Part 7, blah, blah. So this is just like, I think this is just like stuff they have to say, like we looked into this. For example, effect on housing costs, none. Yeah, of course. This has nothing to do with housing. So this is just like stuff that they have to put in, I guess. Effect on small businesses. It has been determined that the adoption of these regulations may affect small businesses. It will affect small businesses. The Commission has drafted the regulations in plain English pursuant to government code sections blah 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 and blah 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 A1. Consideration of alternatives. The Commission must determine that no reasonable alternative considered by the Commission or that has otherwise been identified and brought to the attention of the Commission would be more effective in carrying out the purpose for which the action is proposed, would be as effective and less burdensome to effective private persons than the proposed action, or would be more cost effective to affected private persons and equally effective in implementing the statutory policy or other provision of law. Whew. That's just a long way to say that this is basically they're saying we have to protect the barred sand bass, and this is the best way to do it. That's basically what this is saying. And that's it. Fish and Game Commission, Melissa Miller Henson, she's the executive director, and this is dated January 7th, 2025. All right, so that was a lot to get through, but I wanted to get through it because it's something you can listen to in the car. Rarely will someone sit down and read something like this top to bottom. And so I figured I would do it for you. Again, this video was not meant to be entertaining. It was meant to be informative. And so let's talk about what did we learn today on 21 hunting and fishing. We learned where you can find these proposed changes. We learned that there's other changes there. We didn't get into those. We learned that they wanted to talk about chronic wasting disease in deer. I might do a video on that one because that is a hot topic in the hunting community. And apparently chronic wasting disease has been found in a certain spot in California. So it's something I'm interested in. I don't think it's near where I don't know where exactly. I'll have to look into it. Anyways, what else did we learn? We learned who the executive director was. We learned who we could send our correspondence to. That I want to call him like Anthony Bertoli, but that's not it. That's the guy who makes the pasta in the bag at the grocery store. We learned that essentially they laid out the process saying that this is what we proposed, this is why we propose it, and they say that we think this is the best way to do it. We learned that they could do something about the bag limits to barred sand bass. That's not explicitly already proposed, but they're going to let us know if they do that. So that's very nice of them. If they change the target and right before we're about to shoot, they let us know. Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something today. Remember, kill something, drag it back to your cave, and eat it. See ya.